Welcome to the Pryda build version 5.11 training. This is an exciting release and we cannot wait to show you what's in store. The biggest thing you'll notice when you open Pryda build version 5.11 for the first time is that the master plan is gone. We've consolidated all wall functionality into the new wall layout module. Let's check it out. For roof or floor designers, you'll notice a few extra menus, but you can continue to ignore these. All the wall input tools you need look and behave the same as they did in Pryda build version 5.10. For wall designers, you'll notice that the panels tab and finishing tab are not here. I'll show you them soon. In the meantime, all of the tools you're used to, including bundling, are here and unharmed. Now, can you guess what the major difference was between master plan and wall detailer? There are two things. Firstly, you could not sketch external walls and beams in wall detailer. That restriction is removed in wall layout. Secondly, when you click a wall, you'd get dimensions all over the screen in master plan, but not in wall detailer. We've added in a new dimensions toggle to cover this. If you like to see the dimensions, flick it on. If you don't, flick it off. Hold down the control key to do the opposite at any time. So if you don't have dimensions showing and you want to see just this once, hold down the control key and click the wall to show dimensions. So, not a huge change so far. Where you will notice a difference is in Wall Designer. Let's pop over there now. Previously in Component Designer, we had designed elements like lintels, beams, and critical studs only. In Wall Designer, you've got everything. So let's break it down. To start with, you've got the panels and components list. This list has a hierarchy. By default, the list has walls, the panels within those walls, and the designed elements within those panels. Designed elements that are not part of a panel, like beams or lintels you've added manually, sit at the top of the list. There are options to reorder this, but we think it makes more sense to look at each wall, its panels, and the designed elements within the panel together. You can also turn off walls if you don't want to see them. Previously, you had to scroll through your panels using navigation buttons. Now you can just pick what you need off the list. Speaking of which, you can filter to show walls and panels with alerts. You can hover over the alert icon to show the reason and also show alerts along the top of the screen. Designed elements still have the filters you're used to, so you can filter for them using the status indicators as usual. While we're talking about the panels and components list, let's talk about screen layout. I personally think my layout here is optimal. So we recommend moving your panel components list to the left and separate the members list out to the bottom. You can right-click any of these lists to show more information if you're not happy with what's in the list by default. Now, how do we handle designed elements and panels all in the one screen? You'll notice that the context menus around change as you select a wall or panel versus a designed element. Let's start with a panel. You'll see all the features you're used to seeing in the Panels tab of Wall Detailer in the menu here. Click in the Members list to see the corresponding element selected. And Panel Finishing has moved itself to the Finishing tab. Again, not much has changed here. It does use the same panels and components list as the Panels or Profile tab. You'll notice the Refresh button top left. This can be used to ensure all changes are synchronized to panel finishing. The print function is now standardized with other modules in Pryda build and is available in the job menu under Print. To control the cutting details on a panel basis, you can select all panels, then click Select Panels. You can adjust the cutting details as per previous versions. Now, back to the panels components list. When we select a lintel, you'll now see all the same menus and tabs you'd expect in Component Designer. The engineering panels like timber and nail plates follow the members list. In finishing, you'll notice the menus are slightly different as it allows you to prepare the engineering sheets for the design components. In summary, roof and floor designers, business as usual. You're going to open a different module to usual, but that's it. For wall designers, we think the biggest difference for you will be finding your rhythm with the panels and components list. There's an opportunity for you to streamline your processes now that you can review lintels and critical studs within the wall and panel they're associated with. Take the time to think through how you want to take advantage of the consolidated functionality. And as always, we'd love to hear your feedback so we can continue to develop features that help you work more efficiently. For a change of speed now, let's check out some news on the speed truss front. Until Pryda Build version 5.11, speed truss has only been available to fabricators who want to pre-drill screws in their factory. While this is still the premium offering for speed truss, we've enabled speed truss for on-site application using the Fast Fix Truss Screw Guide, FTSG, for jack and hip trusses to truncated girders and truncated standards. To use this functionality, you'll need two things. Firstly, enable screws in truss connections for these connection types. Secondly, and most importantly, you'll need to supply Fast Fix Truss Screw Guides with your jobs. Speak to your account manager about when they'll be available to order. Ever wished you could adjust the markup or costing codes for a bunch of clients in one go? We've got the tool for you. Go to Accounts, then Clients. Select the clients you want to update or press Ctrl-A to select all of them. Click Bulk Edit. Now you've got two options. First, select the value you want to change from. You'll see the affected clients on the list on the right. The second option is to select Apply to All Selected to change all selected clients regardless of their current settings. In the to column, select the value you want to change to. Click Apply, then Close. You'll see the changes immediately. All right, this next one is very exciting. We've enabled functionality to vectorize PDF files. This means that you can scale and snap to elements within the drawing. As usual, go to the Overlay tab and select Open. Use the navigation buttons to look for the page you want to load. You can only load one page at a time. Click the Vectorize button. An error message will appear if the file can't be vectorized, or it might vectorize but not well, in which case you might just see messy lines on the page. My file looks pretty good. Now, there are tools here to adjust the overlay, but I prefer to make these adjustments in Pryda Build, so I'll click Accept and Continue. My first adjustment is to scale the overlay. If you adjust horizontal first, it will take care of both directions. Notice how it snaps to the other end of the dimension. You might want to check a couple of dimensions just to ensure that the accuracy is good. Now, to sketch walls, turn on Snap to CAD entities and you're good to go. Now, this does come with some caveats. Not all PDF files will vectorize perfectly or at all. PDF files that are scanned from paper plans are not going to work. PDF files created from CAD files are more likely to work. You'll need to check the accuracy of the scaling. It would be worth checking a few dimensions like I did and confirm that your walls are correct. In addition, you always need to refer to the original file as the vectorized process could lose details in a drawing, especially if you're hiding curved or filled entities. Now, if you thought that was good, you're going to love this one. If you can get your hands on an IFC file, you can get a pretty cool overlay happening. Firstly, what are IFC files? They're 3D models using Building Information Modelling, or BIM for short format. Let's have a look. First, there are two options for opening BIM files. These files can be quite large and can take up a lot of memory. So we've given you the option to filter them prior to loading them up. Let's choose the filtered option. When I select my file, I'll get a list of entity types, and I can turn off the ones I don't want. You can also add entity types to an always disable list. However, entity type names are at the discretion of the designer and the software used to create the file. So this might only be useful if you're using files from the same designer frequently. My file loads with a list of entities and a 3D preview. You can turn individual entities on or off. You can also use these buttons along the top to skip to different sections of the file. I can skip to the entity type list and turn off all roof entity types. I can skip to entity colors and turn entities on or off by color coding. Finally, I can look at walls that have been detected. Now this is pretty cool. These are the walls that Pryda Build can import from the IFC file. Note that this relies heavily on the walls being drawn in a way that Pryda Build can identify as walls. Now, you can decide what to import. You've got three options: walls, a 2D overlay, or a 3D overlay. And if you can't decide, like me, you can bring in all three. All right, so let's turn off the overlay. You can see the walls in layout ready to check. Turn the overlay back on to see detail about roof planes or other features in the 3D model. And if we look in 3D, you can see the model in there too. Now, let's say you've already got your walls input, maybe even roof as well. What if you get an IFC file that shows you all the steel through the job and you want to do some visual clash detection? You can load up the overlay directly from 3D too. Click the overlay menu. You'll have the same options for filtered or non-filtered open. I'll select non-filtered this time. The 3D model is loaded directly into 3D. Hence the filtered option is quite handy. Now, the entity list is pretty much the same. There's also options from the overlay menu to move and rotate the model to try and match it up to the existing walls. I'll move it out of the way to show you if you have to move it back. You can also change the transparency so that you can see through the model to the structural elements you've added. And you can use the entity list to show or hide elements, making it easier to spot clashes with the elements you're interested in. Finally, you can unload the overlay when you're finished with it. Just when you think that's enough for one release, we've got one more feature we think you'll love. You've had the option to lock and move walls from the ruler for a long time now. In Pryda Build version 5.11, that functionality is extended to roof and floor. This is great to maintain spacing across multiple trusses while adjusting one truss, for example, to avoid plumbing. So firstly, create a ruler perpendicular to the trusses you want to adjust and move the ruler to the position. Turn off things you don't want to measure. I'll press W to turn off walls and U to turn off floor thickness. L locks the ruler. Then L locks all of the dimensions. I'll just unlock the end too. I'll change the one on the left manually and have the difference find its way to the spacing at the other end, since everything else is locked. Click the arrow towards the direction you want to adjust and enter a new value. Okay, the truss has moved, the conflict zone has been avoided, but I've maintained the spacing between the trusses, which is useful for floor sheeting. The same functionality works in roof as well. While we've run through the major features in this release, there's a couple more things I want to draw your attention to. Let's check out the release notes. In previous versions, C was the default shortcut for checking off trusses and components in the truss list. Now it's Control-C. When you're creating formulas, there are now some options for creating user references based on posts. Connections now take hoist loads into account. However, there is still a caveat related to loading girders supporting trusses with hoist loads manually. There's caveat training coming to explain this further. And New Zealand, split joist hangers are now available for you. Please check out the release notes for a full list of changes for this release. Thanks for watching.